She stood in the doorway with her duffel bag slung over one shoulder, keys in her hand, and a goodbye kiss that didn't reach her eyes. I'll only be gone a week. My mom's not doing great, and my sister's trying to juggle the kids and the job. You get it, right? I nodded. Of course I got it. Ever watched someone lie to your face and realize that silence is the loudest weapon you have? Subscribe, because some goodbyes are only heartbreaking if you're the one getting left. This time I wasn't. We were in a rough patch, tense silences, skipped dinners, and intimacy rationed like a favor. But I wasn't stupid. Rough patches don't usually come with makeup done at 7 a.m. or bags packed like a getaway. She walked out the door without looking back. I remember thinking, she's not coming back the same. Turns out, she didn't go to her mother's. Not even close. It was 2 days into her trip when I saw her. I'd stopped by a friend's place for lunch on the patio, a rare break from the steady drizzle of quiet resentment I'd grown used to at home. As we were wrapping up, someone caught my eye across the street. Familiar gestures, familiar laugh. There she was, hair tied up in that way she used to only do when she wanted to impress someone. Clinking wine glasses, sharing a plate, her ex across the table, hand briefly touching hers. She didn't notice me, or maybe she didn't care. I pulled out my phone. 3 quick photos. One wide, one close, one with the restaurant sign. Evidence. I didn't confront her. I didn't march across the street and blow up her carefully composed lie. That would have satisfied me for 10 minutes, and then left me with a screaming match and a week of empty apologies. I wanted more than that. I wanted freedom. I went home and opened the lease agreement. We were month to month, but technically, I was the only one on the lease. She moved in during the good times, before we started measuring conversations in size and passive-aggressive gestures. The clause said 60 days notice. That was all I needed. I gave it that day. My landlord, a no-nonsense guy who'd seen 100 couples fall apart, didn't blink. You're giving notice today? Yep, just me. He glanced at the photos without asking questions and nodded. She's not on the lease. Just let me know when you want viewings. That night, I called her. Hope your mom's doing okay. You need anything while you're up there? Nah, she said too quickly. It's just exhausting. They're all a mess. I bet they were. All right. Love you, I added, neutral. Love you too, she said, and hung up. By the time she came back 4 days later, I had already signed the lease on my new place. Movers scheduled. New locks waiting. My face looked calm. She had no idea her bags were about to be the only things she'd still own in our apartment. When she came home, I didn't mention the restaurant. Not the ex. Not the 3 photos burned into my phone like scars on glass. I just smiled, handed her the leftovers I'd saved in the fridge, and asked, "How is your family?" She exhaled a rehearsed sigh and said, "Exhausting. But I'm glad I went." I nodded. I bet she was. In truth, she didn't go anywhere near her family, and she didn't know that her trip had already set a quiet avalanche in motion. Leases signed, boxes ordered, utilities scheduled for transfer. Everything she believed she'd built with me was already scheduled to vanish. And I didn't lift my voice once. For the next 8 weeks, I played the long game. We coexisted in the same space, but our lives no longer intersected. She stopped trying to fake affection. I stopped pretending to miss it. The beauty of being underestimated is that no one expects you to be planning your escape while they're still lying about where they've been. Every time she came home late and said, I was at Jenna's place, she needed to vent, I just nodded. No suspicion, no jealousy. Everything okay with her? She blinked, surprised. Yeah, she just needed to talk. Women stuff, you know. Sure. She never once noticed that I'd started taking my laptop and important papers to work. Or that my half of the closet looked thinner. She was too busy sneaking around to notice I was disappearing right in front of her. I told her we should consider therapy. Not because I wanted it, but because it made her think I hadn't caught on. I don't know, she said. I'm just tired. Maybe we just need time. I agreed. Time was exactly what I needed. The landlord kept things quiet. A good man. Said he'd only show the place while she was out or working late. We coordinated everything like a covert operation. At one point, A couple walked through the apartment while she was in the shower. We finished the tour, slipped out, and left no trace. When I told the movers to lock in the date, I chose the morning I knew she'd be at her shift until noon. She'd wake up in one version of reality and return to another entirely. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to end her illusion. There were signs. Once or twice, she came home earlier than expected and noticed a box or two missing. I blamed a donation run. She shrugged and barely noticed. Our communication was so dead by then, even lies didn't echo. And the thing was, she never once apologized. Never seemed torn. Never asked if we were okay. Because in her mind, she still controlled the narrative. She still believed I was the one holding on. She didn't know I had already let go the day I took those pictures. Moving day didn't start with drama. It started with the sound of wheels on the pavement and the quiet efficiency of a three-man crew who didn't ask questions. They just packed. By 8 a.m., the front door was propped open. I had already pulled our remaining bills, split my items, and taped my name to everything that was mine, which turned out to be almost everything. We never shared furniture. I bought the bed, the couch, the bookshelves. Her contributions were limited to throw pillows and half-used toiletries. I almost felt bad. Almost. The crew worked fast. Every box was marked, sealed, and stacked by category. I gave them simple instructions. Everything with a name tag, loaded. Everything else stays until she comes for it. They nodded. No judgment. It felt clinical. Like closing up a chapter, not smashing it shut. My phone buzzed around 9:30. Her text, "Hey babe, might head to brunch with Sarah. Want anything before I come home?" I stared at the screen. This woman had slept in my bed, lied to my face, and shared breakfast menus with the man she told me not to worry about. And here she was, asking if I wanted a mimosa. "Nah, I'm good," I replied. "Enjoy." I let her walk right into the end of her story. By noon, we were nearly done. The place was empty enough to echo. It was strange standing in the same living room where we'd once danced tipsy at midnight, watching it become a hollow box of history. Around 12:20, I heard the key in the door. She stepped in, still wearing her sunglasses, a smoothie in hand. She froze. What the hell is going on? The movers kept working, boxes in hand, no eye contact. I turned from the bookshelf where I'd just pulled my last novel. "We're moving," I said calmly. She barked. "You hired movers?" "Yep." She dropped the smoothie on the counter. "Why didn't you tell me?" I walked to the table and laid down a simple manila envelope. Inside were 3 printed photos. One with the patio sign, one with her and the ex smiling, one close enough that no one could mistake the hand resting on hers. "Because you told me you were visiting your family. Turns out, you were visiting someone else's." She stared at the photos for a full 10 seconds before her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Just air and guilt. I let the silence drag. "You can grab what's yours," I said. "But just a heads up, the lease is ending in 3 days. The landlord needs the place cleaned out by tomorrow night." Right on cue, the landlord himself appeared in the doorway. He gave her a short, polite nod. "You've got until midnight tomorrow," he said. "After that, I'm cleaning out what's left and changing the locks." "You can't do that," she snapped. "You're not on the lease," he said flatly. "You never were." She turned to me, voice cracking. "You planned this?" I nodded. "From the minute I took those photos." She stepped back, stunned, staring at the barren room where her lies had once lived comfortably. And I swear, just for a second, I saw her realize this wasn't a tantrum or a threat. It was the end. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, stunned, staring at the envelope like it was a grenade someone forgot to throw. The movers kept working around her, lifting boxes with surgical calm, while the landlord quietly walked to the balcony, giving us a thin illusion of privacy. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. Because some truths don't need an audience. They're louder in silence. "You said you were going to see your family," I said evenly. "You lied. You were with your ex." You laughed like I never existed. Her jaw moved, like she was rehearsing lines that had worked before. Maybe an apology, maybe a plea. But she'd run out of stage. There were no soft lights left, No flattering angles. It was just dinner, she muttered. I raised my eyebrows. For 5 days. I handed her another sheet. This one wasn't a photo. It was a signed copy of my notice to vacate, dated the morning after I saw her on the patio. 60 days. Done. I'm not here to argue. This is just logistics now. She stood up slowly, brushing imaginary dust off her yoga pants. She looked around the apartment. The empty shelves, the boxes of mine already rolled down the hallway, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the look of someone who wasn't in control. I can't just move out in a day, she said. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged gently. Maybe stay with your ex. You two looked comfortable enough. That landed. She turned red. Not with guilt, with humiliation. You're being cruel, she hissed. I nodded, slowly. Not half as cruel as pretending to love someone while sharing a bed with another man in your head. She stepped closer. I didn't cheat. Then what do you call going to a city 6 hours away to spend time with someone you once said was toxic, and lying about where you were the entire time? She didn't answer, because there wasn't an answer that mattered anymore. This wasn't a trial. I wasn't looking for confession. I was just laying out the closing statement. Everything in this apartment is mine, I continued. You know that. The lease is mine. The bills are mine. You moved in, not because we planned a future, but because it was easy. She said nothing. Now it's over. So pack. She looked down at the envelope again. You've really been planning this since the day you saw me? I nodded. Revenge? She asked. No, I said. Clarity. The landlord returned from the balcony and gave her a soft warning. Midnight. Tomorrow. After that, what's left gets moved to the curb. No exceptions. She didn't fight anymore. She walked past the photos, sat on the edge of the mattress we once shared, and started folding her clothes in silence. No more lies. No more fake apologies. Just the quiet sound of a life being repacked because it had never truly belonged. The apartment was nearly hollow by sunset. The movers had taken everything I claimed: sofas, shelves, my desk, my sense of peace. What remained behind looked like fragments of someone else's life: a makeup bag on the bathroom sink, a half-burned candle on the windowsill, a pair of worn sneakers by the door that she never bothered to take off when she came in late. She spent most of the afternoon in a daze, gathering things into laundry baskets and old reusable shopping bags, her confidence shrinking with every drawer she opened. I didn't speak unless she asked a direct question. She didn't say much. She knew. By 10 p.m. She had piled her belongings in the living room like she was waiting for a bus that wouldn't come. I watched her quietly from the kitchen, leaning against the counter that once held Sunday morning pancakes and quiet apologies that never aged well. And I realized I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt distance. And distance is what healing sounds like when it stops needing closure. She tried to salvage one final thread. I didn't plan it, she said, barely above a whisper. It wasn't like I meant for it to happen. I looked at her, not with contempt, but clarity. I believe you, I said. You just didn't mean for me to find out. And that was always the truth. She didn't want me hurt. She wanted me unaware. She wanted the perks of commitment without the cost of integrity. But you can't cheat your way through loyalty and hope the invoice never arrives. Tonight, it did. By 11:30, the apartment echoed. The kind of emptiness that makes every footstep feel like punctuation. She stood in the center of it all, surrounded by her unclaimed pieces: toiletries, thrift store throw pillows, off-brand moisturizer, and a few pairs of earrings in a dish that once sat on my dresser. It was almost poetic. She once told me she hated goodbyes. I now understood she meant the ones she didn't control. Before I left, I took one last photo. It wasn't of her face. It was of the room. No furniture. No lights on. Just her things, in a pile at the center like a forgotten donation drop. She turned as the camera clicked. Seriously, she asked. Just for the memories, I said. And I meant it. Not out of spite. But because this was the exact moment I reclaimed my life. I stepped outside, locked the door behind me for the final time, and left the keys with the landlord. Thanks for the discretion, I told him. No worries, he said. You handled that better than most. I walked to the car feeling lighter than I had in months. No screaming matches. No scenes. Just truth, served quietly, and consequences unpacked just as privately. She thought she could live two lives. I just helped her lose the one she pretended to love. Ever had your goodbye mistaken for weakness, and then reminded them that silence isn't surrender, it's strategy? Subscribe. Because sometimes the loudest message is the room they're left standing in alone.